Apparently Lloyd Austin was taken to the intensive care unit once again. So you got a senile, demented president who has the nuclear codes, and you have Lloyd Austin who is incapacitated and who's handed over his duties to, I can't remember who is next in line, the deputy. But you also have Kamala Harris, who I guess is next in line to push the nuclear button. So yeah, that's where we're at with that. Okay, so I hope you can sleep well tonight knowing that. Cyber attacks in Lithuania, 30,000 electronic vehicles stopped working along with electric filling stations. So it wasn't actually 30,000 electronic vehicles. There was clarification on this later that it was the electronic filling stations that were hacked by the ex-Killnet group, a group of Russian hackers. Okay, there was also a Chinese hacker infiltration of U.S. critical infrastructure. Now this has been ongoing apparently for 5 years. Get a load of this. The U.S. National Security Agency, U.S. cyber watchdog CISA, the FBI, and the Transportation Security Administration said that the group known as Volt Typhoon had quietly burrowed into the networks of aviation, rail, mass transit, highway, maritime, pipeline, water, and sewage organizations. Talk about a royal flush of critical infrastructure. None of the organizations were identified by name, but the statement said that U.S. officials had observed the hackers maintaining access and footholds within some victim IT environments for at least 5 years. So what are they trying to figure out? What sort of malware did they place on these systems? What sort of dormant kill switches did they implement in these critical infrastructures? And how widespread is this is the question. So when things really kick off, there's going to be a lot of things that catch a lot of people by surprise. I don't think that the movie Leave the World Behind is too far from the truth in terms of what we can expect. If they start unloading all these cyber weapons at once, you can expect total pandemonium. Russia is apparently starting to recruit mercenaries from around the world, from Africa, from the Middle East, from Syria, from possibly even North Korea, for all we know. I'm presuming that if push came to shove, they would leverage Eastern manpower in order to help fuel their human resource needs at home. They're going to have an endless pool of human resources. This is something to consider, and this is what a lot of people haven't thought about when it comes to just the calculus of the economic stratagem of World War III, is that Russia has behind it probably around 6 billion people, okay, who are probably willing to send them workers if need be. So whatever workers they don't have as a result of having to mobilize, let's say they have to mobilize 10 million men for some possible conflict in the future, well, that shortfall can be made up by immigration. You have North Koreans who are looking for employment. Now, North Korea, though, the only problem with North Korea is I'm pretty sure that there is an agreement that there's a lot of North Koreans who go and they work in the nether regions of Siberia, but I don't think they like them being too exposed to the outside world. So I'm not sure if you would find them necessarily working in places that are heavily populated where they could perhaps get a taste of what the rest of the world looks like. Got to keep them close to that prison mindset. But Chinese, I'm sure, China would be willing and probably will have some employment problems in the future, and they'll be able to outsource some of that human labor. India, Indonesia, numerous countries are going to be able to fill in whatever sort of human resource gap that Russia has, because of course Russia has resources. And so Russia's potential manpower that they can bring to bear is virtually infinite relative to the West, which, yes, there's a lot of immigrants banging on our door as well, and no doubt I think that I stand by my hypothesis that the pathway to citizenship is going to be, if you go join the military for a few years, we promise you We won't start a war. When you get back, you can have your citizenships. Oops, we started a war, and now you got to go and die for your country. I think that was a scene in what was that movie called? Gangs of New York, right? The guys come off the boats, they get here, go fight and die for your country, and they never come back. We're seeing unprecedented military activity near Taiwan. In January alone, 404 aircraft, okay, 185 warships, 69 spy balloons, and 93 incursions of air traffic, or aircraft, I should say, into the airspace of the Taiwanese. So things are getting very intense. The Abrams tanks are shipping in. You have special forces currently operating on an island that is just 30 miles outside of China. So we are pushing a lot of people's buttons, and we're just asking for it at this point in time. Now the U.S. is claiming, or there's rumblings, that they're going to be leaving the Middle East in 90 days. What does that mean? We know that when they're getting ready to leave somewhere, that means that they're just trying to fill, it's a game of whack-a-mole. It's a game of, the sinking ship, and you gotta keep plugging one end of the ship and the other end springs a leak, and so you gotta go and fix that. If they're moving troops out of somewhere, that means they're getting ready to move them somewhere else. It is possible that somewhere else is going to be in Ukraine in some peacekeeping capacity, but I do believe that maybe they're going to consolidate those forces in a safer place. They're going to move them to another part of the Middle East. I haven't really given this a whole lot of thought yet, but as we've seen in Afghanistan, usually 6 months, 6 months or so prior to leaving a place, that's when a war starts. Okay, so that's when they're getting ready to move their forces for the next war. The Argentinian president, I don't know how you pronounce his name, Javier Milei, called for the crazy-looking guy who's, just another one of these eccentric, nationalistic presidents who really hasn't done a whole lot for his country so far. I guess time will tell. He's called for the demolition of Al-Aqsa Mosque, the third holiest site in Islam, in order to, get a load of this, bring about the Messiah. This is the guy that put on the big melodramatic display where he was weeping at the weeping wall, and it was very cringy, to say the least. But as far as I know, the Messiah comes, and doesn't the end of the world happen or something like that? I don't know. Anyways, it's certainly not the most empirical and scientific and statesman-like statement to make, but this is what we get nowadays. That's the best that humanity has to offer. That's why we are most definitely approaching the end. The U.S. has rejected Putin's latest call for Ukraine negotiations. I'm going to leave you with one final thought today. I was doing some research about oil because there's something about...
Did you know you can generate an endless supply of power simply from the ground beneath you? Do not buy solar panels or any other energy alternative until you hear about this strange new device. It's the perfect...
Oil and war, these things just go hand in hand, but it's very hard to identify where the causal relationship actually is. Now, in 2014, what happened in 2014? Well, if you've been following this channel, you know Euromaidan, also known as Maidan coup in some circles, happened in Ukraine. That's when shit really started to intensify in Eastern Europe. Actually, it started to happen, well, maybe in 2008, the Georgia stuff, but, generally speaking, right around that time, something very interesting happened in the oil markets, okay? And what happened was, it was the first time that the United States became the largest producer of oil in the world. That was the first year, and that was all due to shale, okay? And since that time, we have been peaking, okay? And you'll notice that there really is a one-to-one relationship almost with the economy and the increased output of oil. Now, most of the experts have said that shale has peaked, okay? There might be another, and in most cases, shale has peaked across the contiguous United States. But there might be a few, discoveries here, but by and large, it's peaked. Okay, so we're reaching a plateau phase, There might be a few, ticks upwards. So what this essentially means then is that this is what's been suppressing inflation. This flood of cheap oil on the markets, and the U.S. is doing whatever it can to counterbalance or counteract the devaluation of the dollar and the decreased purchasing power due to quantitative easing by flooding the market with oil. Now, think about how the relationship with oil works and Russia. How is it at all coincidental that the war with Russia begins while the United States has vastly exceeded it in terms of oil output, when the United States, for the first time in what was it, like 40 years, was finally not only self-sufficient with oil, but able to export oil? Then they decide, okay, maybe it's time to push the Russians into doing something. If you don't think they didn't push the Russians, then you don't know much about what's going on in Ukraine in terms of funneling the Ukrainians weapons. Yes, Putin did invade, but why did he invade when he did? Well, it largely came down to the fact that Ukraine was being armed to the tits and was preparing for this very conflict by the United States, who was providing them weapons. So it reached a point where they had to either act, or Ukraine was going to, in their mind, become too powerful and too difficult in order for them to overthrow. Little did they know they were already. Breaking news, this is your late night World War III update. I gotta be brutally honest, I do not want to be making this video. This is the second video I've made today, which doesn't happen too often. And that's because the information I gotta share is just too critical to defer until tomorrow. Some new info has come to light that makes everything make sense. It's gonna provide an explanatory framework for what is going on in Eastern Europe, and I guarantee you, nobody else is talking about this. Now, before we go here, I gotta say, I got a message from a friend today, somebody I trust, and they notified me that one of their contacts who works with the military-industrial complex, very high-level stuff, very well connected, has advised them if they have any big league preparedness projects that they need to, quote-unquote, hurry up. Now, they wouldn't go into any more detail than that, probably due to non-disclosure, classified information, but I'm telling you that this is somebody I trust, and if they're saying that people are telling them, people in influential places are saying that you need to hurry up, that's concerning. Very, very disconcerting, to say the least. So all the more reason to hear what I have to say today, because that maps on perfectly well. Now, in the last few days, I've been focused primarily on what's going on in Eastern Europe, which is not to discount or minimize what is happening currently in the Middle East. That situation could spiral out of control any hour. However, I do think that something big is going down here. Now, recall that in the last couple days, I've been talking about a few things. F-16s are coming to Ukraine. They're going to be armed with missiles that have a 500-kilometer range. We have a NATO exercise currently occurring, one of the largest in history, 100,000 troops, all currently amalgamating in the Polish region. We also have a Polish air alert issued yesterday for the eastern part of the country, which was basically a due with increased military activity in that region. And the information that I'm about to share with you today is going to explain exactly why they're doing that. And nobody, definitely not in the mainstream media, and nobody in the alternative media is talking about this yet. We also have the imminent replacement of the commander of the Ukrainian military. And this is very important, because why are they fast-tracked?
Is porous stools. This English teacher is connected to a class 1,000 miles away.